Bonjour, nerds! Welcome to a very special episode of Region Free, as today we're sort of kicking off a second month of the show, where we're casting our gaze on a new sort of selection of films. If you listened to the end of last week's episode, you'd know the thematic tissue connecting these films. Of course, the French and how perverted, intense they can be. So we're kicking things off today with a very special one of my favorite films of all time, one that I know my lovely co-host Blake Hester from the internet had never seen before until last night when he sent me several images of him distressed.
That's right.
Going through it, not having a good time,
AJ.
watching Claire Denis' 2001 sort of banned fucking, I don't even know what to call this movie, crazed psychosexual thriller Trouble Every Day.
AJ, we've known each other for the better part of a decade now, and I'd like to think you know me pretty well. To me, you're an enigma. I don't really, but I've been very open about my proclivities, my interests. You know, going into this one, I was gonna have my little world rocked by Claire and Beatrice.
I knew there was some stuff in this movie that you were gonna dig.
Oh my lord, brother! Here's everything I needed from it. In excruciating, all leading up to the most heinous scene of violence possible that makes the 45 minutes of Vincent Gallo's pretty bad acting worth it. And I was like, let's go.
He's doing like a sort of listless Timothée Chalamet, just like walking around France being like, I'm so sad, boo.
Here's the thing I was wondering about, because like Vincent Gallo, I feel like is somewhat known as like, maybe not would have been a star if he hadn't ended up being a dirtbag, but like he was on a short list of like he might have been a big star if he could have held it. You know, I think people like really regard him well in Buffalo 6-6. So I couldn't tell if this was just his normal acting or if the character was supposed to be kind of like very non-emotive, which I think worked for it, but also I was a little confused. Like, is he a bad actor and it's working for the movie, or is this the character lacking much feeling or emotion or definitely empathy?
Yeah, this will be treading on careful ground here, I suppose. But he's a kind of actor who seems like he'd have a lot of success these days, where this sort of like realism and verite is coming back around, where a lot of these guys do end up sort of being pieces of shit, but they're committed method actors or whatever. So you see that on screen, and it's hard to tell where it begins or where it ends. People are sort of a little bit more into that these days, or that's having another moment, and he feels like one of those guys. Yeah, because
he would definitely be in a Safdie movie for sure.
For sure, yeah. He'd like wander on screen and just have one scene where everyone's like, who was this guy? Is that a real person who kind of, I don't know, just like stalks women on the street?
That's probably what Vincent Gallo does in real life, is based off everything I've heard from him. Though as I thought about, this is not the only movie hit scene with him in it, because he's in Goodfellas. I have no clue what character, but like he is in Goodfellas somewhere.
I'm sure he's just one of the boys, one of the Goodfellas.
And I've also seen approximately 20 seconds of Brown Bunny.
Yeah, which 20?
Look, we all know that.
I think we've done that exact bit before. Yeah, I mean, so this movie obviously stars Vincent Gallo. Also features a legend of the French Extremity in her own right, Beatrice Dalle, as a character I remembered being sort of more prominent throughout the film. She's obviously got pretty hefty significance when it comes to the story, the plot, the direction that the movie goes, but she's really not on screen all that much, but doing the absolute most.
She is, I mean, honestly, like a lot of these, like, I don't know, you call them like horror legends, Scream Queen. Well, I don't know that she's necessarily Scream Queen, because at least in the two movies I've seen her in, she's the aggressor, not the victim.
Yeah.
But like, she is just an absolute force of acting, and it's unfortunate that like it seems, not unfortunate because I don't want to belittle anyone's career in horror. I think she's more than like earned and really incredible reputation, but like it's kind of a bummer you don't see her in more breakout roles, at least as far as I know. The way Jamie Lee Curtis was like able to make that jump pretty seamlessly, a lot of other actresses in America don't, after giving really great performances in horror films. Like, I don't know if Beatrice Dalle showing up in too many non-horror or kind of near cult this, which is unfortunate because she's amazing.
She pops up in Jim Jarmusch's Night on Earth.
Oh, okay.
but that's kind of like a anthology movie, and so just has a role in that. Yeah, but
I mean, if I'm wrong, please let me know, because I'm not going to act like
no.
super
I've got
well-versed here.
I've got the film star pulled up here, and it's basically it's the ones you'd expect to see on there.
La Intrude.
Oui. Get ready for a month of bad French interpretation.
It's okay. You can make fun of the French legally and ethically.
Yeah,
it's actually not a problem.
Always cool.
And Vincent Gallo, I think, is Italian. Also, totally within your right to of the Italian.
For sure. I've had beef with French. Let's just get this.
I think most of the world has, actually.
Yeah, I've got beef with the French, but in exploring the new French Extremity, I've come to admire those long cigarette smoking bastards a little bit more than I maybe have in the past.
Well, you know who certainly did not like the new French Extremity?
Who's
was
that?
In fact the writer who coined the term. While also mentioning Trouble Every Day, that is one of the films name dropped in that art forum. I don't know the writer's name.
The writer's name, who's writing in art form, is of course James Quant.
I tried to go back and I can't get through it. Actually, it's not that I don't agree with his writing, which I don't, but that's okay. That's not like a knock against it fun to me. It's that I just think he's like flowery in a way that likes the smell of his own farts. But it is funny hearing him write about this and feel like he seemingly had a very different takeaway than I. Did you know that like the NFE label was like abortive, or it was kind of reamed from this blog post?
Yeah, I mean, there's also the term film maudit, which hangs around a lot of these movies. That basically is an equivalent of the British's video nasty, which was basically, the stuff that you can't rent this if you're under 17 or 18 or whatever. It has perverse content that we have deemed unacceptable for wide society at large. And then obviously, there's this 20 years ago almost that basically takes a look at what was emerging in the 90s and then early 2000s, obviously, of these French filmmakers rebelling against or sort of picking up on today we'd call it a vibe shift, something in the culture, this moment, this sense of people responding to or wanting to see acts of violence or depravity depicted on screen as special effects and film production, gore, and all that sort of stuff is getting, if not easier, more efficient, kind of more controlled, produce. You can really start pushing the boundaries of that. And France obviously has a pretty significant place in the history of cinema. There was already the French New Wave in the 60s, and so it kind of makes sense, that they would just take a look at this batch of filmmakers and just try to apply another label to them.
Revisiting it last night, and we're kind of in the I will give him credit for coining the coolest name for a film movement ever. New French Extremity just sounds so fucking hard. But I think my issue with that piece more than anything is obviously he brings up French New Wave directors, kind of historically classical French films and directors as a way to kind of discredit the new wave, but new, 20 years ago. Almost like French films are a little holier than thou. You know what I'm saying? This isn't how we used to do it. We used to do only high class stuff. And it's it seems like it disregards what was probably going on socio-politically at the time in France. And also it feels like such a cop-out for a critic to just shirk off extreme cinema because he's gross. You don't have to like it by any means, but I think it's a failure of a critic to look at a movie who's using a different language, and in this case it's taboo or extreme violence, sex, etc., and just completely write it off because it's not kind of up its own ass like Godard was, which I'm not gonna hate on any of his movies, but that's kind of the air this dude is bringing to the conversation, which makes it
I should have looked
makes it interesting in retrospect, where Trouble Every Day seems fully reappraised after maybe falsely brought into the movement, but people have revisited that one. No, this was great. This was not just schlock for schlock.
Yeah, this one has a particularly interesting place in the movement as a whole. So let's grab a thumbtack. Let's pin that discussion thread up on the wall a little bit. Let's rewind back into the larger new French Extremity conversation just for a sec here, because I want to get a sense of how it's emerging. People are responding to it. You're obviously getting Gaspar Noé out of stuff like this, and Salo is a film I think that he name drops in there quite a bit about and that's obviously a pretty extreme example of what can we get away with.
And to be fair, that's Italian. That's not
French. Yeah. But he uses it as he points to it as kind of the the floodgates opening in a way, a moment of like, wait a minute, you can put this stuff on screen now. Like, let's get off to the races. That piece, as influential as it is, kind of does turn into a school paper at some point where he's like, well, you can examine movie X, movie Y, movie Z, and they're doing these things, and this is better because it's an interesting thing to think about. Yeah, but the movement overall, I've watched a lot more of it in the past couple of years than I'd ever more so been familiar with, and so there are films like this that you're sort of aware of, like as a teenager who's starting to get an interest in film for the first time, and especially the advent of the streamings and whatnot, YouTube, X video, whatever you want to do, makes it a lot easier to find these sorts of things.
X videos.
What? I wanted to see if I could sneak that one past
hold
you.
on. I didn't know that was the premier place to watch French film. I guess it is probably the
sometimes it kind of is. Sometimes you have to go to these interesting little websites to find some of these movies. Thankfully not for Claire Denis' Trouble Every Day, a film that's currently streaming on Shudder in crisp fucking 480p video format. Movie looks like shit. Movie looks like shit, but I love it. It has really great 16mm photography, just fucking grainy, feels grimy, feels like you're truly being transported back to probably like 1999. They were shooting this. They shot this movie apparently in just 10 days. So very quick, kind of condensed shoot. I mean, it certainly feels sort of like a micro budget, like experimental little thing. But at the time that they're making this, or that this is coming out, I don't know the exact filming schedule, but immediately before this is Claire Denis' most successful, most prestigious to this day film, Beau Travail, which is, again, another one of my all-time favorites. And that's a film, again, that's reputation has only grown in the years since its release. I think it was in the top 10 of the Sight and Sound list this year. Got like an incredible Criterion disc. It's a movie similarly. Claire Denis is a really interesting filmmaker, one of my favorites, but whose stuff sort of was very considered within the like film going community, the like critics' favorite sort of like art house, played at a lot of film festivals and stuff, but never, and probably still has never like truly broken through with mainstream appeal. She made an A24 movie with Robert Pattinson a couple years ago. That's a banger.
High Life, right?
Yeah. But that's sort of the most, whatever you want to call it, mainstream thing that she's ever done. And that's a movie that has Mia Goth and a cum shot in it, much like in full. So
I did not realize that. This movie also,
that movie freaks.
This movie has a Vincent Gallo cinematic parallels. Can I admit a funny bit of ignorance?
Yes.
I didn't think these were the same people, but in my head, my mental image of Claire Denis was a completely different director. And
that's funny because she's got a very distinct look.
She does. She certainly does. And what is her name? She has like dark red hair, usually like a bowl cut. Criterion really loves it.
Agnes Varda, yeah, right.
That's who I picture.
Yeah.
This whole time.
Look, two auteurs of French filmmaking. It makes sense.
Yeah. I didn't think they were the same person. Like I realized somewhere in my brain, I was like, these are two different people who make different movies, but there was a face swap at some point. What's wrong?
Hey, not all French women, I suppose, look identical. It's a crazy haircut on Agnes Varda, too. It's like 50-50. Sometimes she's got it dyed red. Yeah. Sometimes she's got it dyed white.
Sometimes it looks good. Sometimes not so.
That's great. She's a queen. Rest in peace.
Oh, did she pass away?
A couple of years ago, yeah. There's the great Criterion box set with probably the striking image that you're thinking of with her glorious bowl cut. Two of my faves. I open this podcast by saying I have beef with the French, but those are two of my faves.
The world historically.
And that's something thematically that has influenced a lot of Denis' filmmaking. And I think there's an undercurrent of some of that in this film. It's not as explicit as something like Beau Travail or Bastards is a really fun one. And then a lot of stuff with like his pair that I can't remember why I'm blanking on the names right now. White Material, 35 Shots of Rum, that kind of stuff. Very explicitly sort of like post-colonial films about France is kind of a bad country, right, y'all?
Yeah, did you see Athena last year?
No, I still haven't watched that. I still haven't even watched the 11-minute opening scene on YouTube.
Well, the director of that movie paused. It's a worse idea than most directors, which is France is a bad place. We should keep it that way.
Yeah, that's a lot of... We'll talk about a few more films like that with one that's coming up later. I want to save a bit of that
We should watch
for
Athena.
a film I watched recently.
We should do a bonus ep on Athena.
I'll watch it. But, okay, I'll watch it. We'll see what
It's
happens.
like a 85-minute. Like, it's a fast one.
Oh, really?
Even when
I don't know why I thought it was longer.
Even though most of it sucks, like, its runtime is like gracefully
mercifully short is the
short,
phrase that they invented for that.
Yeah, whatever.
You
be on this many
another-
podcasts and speak clearly every time.
Well, no, you can coin your own phrase on this podcast.
Sure.
It's certainly not illegal.
Sure.
Another film that's not particularly long like that
Is this?
Trouble Every Day. Kind of like a brisk. It said 101 minutes on the streamer. Didn't feel like it was pushing more than an hour and a half.
It's a slow burn, though. You feel those minutes. Like, it does not fly by.
I was definitely checking how long it sort of took for there to be any recognizable, meaningful dialogue on screen, and it's like 15 minutes because a lot of it is just these sort of half-heard conversations from people. Does a lot of setup, but a lot of that early mise en scene, if you want to use a French term, is very effective in instilling this sort of unease. Like, here's a fun question maybe to get us into talking about this movie. Like, do you think this is a horror movie? Like, how does it fit into the broader sort of canon genre of that? I called it a psychosexual thriller up top, and even I'm not sure I'm committed to that.
I mean, I think it's horror in the sense that horror is just a catch-all term, kind of like in the game space, indie has become a catch-all term. So, like, it's not a scary movie. There are scenes disturbing and hard to watch, but it's not like
I would posit it has maybe the scariest scene I've ever watched in a movie.
But you're not sitting through it going from like scare set piece to scare set. Like, there are two big parts in the movie about halfway through at the very end where it's like, okay, holy fuck, this is a lot. But like, you know, I think it just has to be horror because there's not really a better term other than I like the designation psychosexual thriller, but it's a bit of a mouthful. You know, horror just rolls off the...
A little bit better. Having seen this movie a couple of times, when I was rewatching it, sort of what I noticed is sort of the most, aside from maybe one or two kind of exposition dumps up top, or not up top, excuse me. That's a tongue twister. Aside from a few exposition dumps later in the most sort of like concrete blocks of storytelling and what's actually going on here are contained in those early flashes of stuff that when you're watching it for the first time, you're sort of disoriented and don't really recognize what's going on. Like, I believe it's the very first bit of the movie is the car crash scene with Beatrice Dahl and this guy who's just not really relevant to the rest of whatsoever. But
well, they don't crash. She like lures him, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like on the side of the road, kind of waves the guy down or whatever, brings him over, and then there's sort of, you know, smash cut, clever editing. He's disposed of, and then husband/doctor character is coming pick her up, and he's covered in blood. And that's really basically like what you need to know going into the movie.
Fantastic.
Like, yeah. Well, the very, very opening is that really tight shot of just people going at it.
I wrote a note. I wrote one note, actually, that I'd like to...
Hit me.
I wrote it within the first 20 seconds. What adults fuck in a car? Grow up. When was the last time you had sex in a car, AJ? Like,
it's been a while.
Exactly. I just...
Call me stained the way it's been a while.
Here's the thing. I was irrationally angry at the idea of grown adults in a car.
It's such a French thing to do in the early 2000s.
No wonder they lost so much over the years. Fucking cars.
Well, so immediately up top, you're presented with image of intimacy, romance, and then blood, gore, guts. This is not the first film to ever posit sex, violence. Maybe they're more related than they are distant, separate. They're sort of two sides of a similar coin. You know what I mean?
Gavin Rossdale from Bush said there's no sex in, so I don't know. It's curious to consider both sides of the argument.
Let's say they're two human behaviors that have been intrinsically linked over the years.
So obviously I'm fucking around. I agree with you. I do think the interesting take this movie has, or at least kind of one of the readings I walked away, ambiguous at best, was like, obviously sex and violence are linked, but it seems to also be examining the parallels of what men and women get away with. Which I think, like, as we get deeper in the plot, we can circle back to. But there are two scenes where two characters basically commit the same crime, and the, you know, end result is very different.
And they're both, I mean, they're sort of the center bits of the film. One occurs pretty much exactly halfway through, and then one is essentially the closing act of the movie. They are both, like, frightfully disturbing, really just taut sequences, but one, again, positioned sort of as more like the supernatural, almost like, it's not a moment of catharsis or release, but it does alleviate some of the like, you've got 45 minutes of buildup basically getting into this scene, and then you're like, okay, that's what's going on here. And the other shoe drops at the end of the film really leaves you on a sour note. And it's just kind of like, that sucks.
Well, I think it's worth saying at the top, and I mean content of this movie, but like, it's not, the movie's not only equating sex and violence. Like, these are two graphic depictions of sexual violence.
Absolutely.
They are.
Yeah.
You know. It's a little blurry on the second one if it becomes consensual. It seems to be like kind of dancing the line for a moment, but the both end very much in like, this is no longer a ritual act.
Yeah, absolutely.
The first definitively does begin cross. The second one I couldn't figure it out in the but I knew by the end of it.
It's sort of like, and this is just, the plot summary line, but I think it's pretty clearly meant to be taken as like a sexual assault, essentially.
I'm not saying by the end of it I thought it was a blurry line. I just meant in the first few moments, it's like, okay, what is going on? And then there's no denying that it's bad.
Yeah, it's a morally reprehensible thing from the jump.
Yeah.
Well, aside from those sort of flashes that we were just talking about, and then a really lovely opening credits set in Comic Sans. We're talking about how disturbing, how unsettling this movie is. It has like bright purple Comic Sans intro text over this nice little smooth jazz and a shot of the river.
It's a Frank Zappa song, isn't it? Is it not?
Is it?
I don't know.
The music in this movie is really cool. I like how this movie uses music quite a bit.
Keep going. I'm just looking up Frank Zappa song.
Well, to compliment, maybe I'm thinking of like the end credits.
No, it's the same
instead.
song. It's the same song in the beginning and the closing. I think that's it's Frank Zappa.
That's sick. There are really cool little stretches of just
it's
like
not,
this.
It's not. It's so not. It's definitive.
Who is it?
I'm not sure who it is. But
You've got it now. Tell me the song.
No, Frank Zappa has a song called Trouble Every Day. I thought that's what it was.
Gotcha.
It's very much.
Well, the song that plays in this movie is good. And then throughout the film, because so much of it is sparse, lacking dialogue, just sort of long, meandering takes, there's this really cool instrumental jazz section that plays under a lot of this film. Kind of feels like like you're at a swing band show before the singer waltzes out on stage and does his crooning, but just like, lots, and it's a direct juxtaposition with the mood of the film, which is bad vibes. Let's leave it at that. You sort of know, you don't know where this film is going watching it for the first time. It's going to be nowhere good.
So
is basically how I feel.
So the movie is named after the song, but I don't believe that is the song playing that says, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. The
song does say Trouble Every Day.
Look, listener, I'm a fucking idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about at any point.
No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. The plot of Trouble Every Day is Vincent Gallo and his newly betrothed wife, played by Trisha Vesey. Her name's June. His name is Shane. They are on a lovely Parisian honeymoon. They've just been married, and they're going over to the City of Lights. Is that what they call Paris? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, the city of romance. The city of baguette. I don't think there's any baguettes in the film. What a bummer. What a letdown.
There is a cafe, though.
I'm removing a star from Letterboxd as we
There's
speak.
A quaint
this is
cafe.
getting bumped down to a 4. Quaint cafe. They're staying in a nice hotel. They seem to be having a nice time. You're like, that's cute. Little couple on vacation together, living the life, have the newlywed glow.
Bit of a distance, but
bit of a distance. On the flight over, he kind of has this weird premonition, panic attack type thing. I think you're meant to take it as like, he's classic guy, scared of commitment, just married, his life's totally changed. He's like having this weird dream about his wife dying, is on fire or something like that. Sort of just like this violent thing that causes him to like spend most of the flight curled up in the bathroom.
A weird moment where the flight attendant starts knocking on the door asking if he's okay, and that doesn't happen. You can actually spend an entire flight in the bathroom and they will not check on you. As a man who's waited many a flight for someone to quit dunking out in there, imagining their wife dead.
I was going to ask if you were speaking from
they will not help.
I was trying to get in there.
Maybe the flight attendant just had to go, but otherwise they are not getting you out of there. It's crazy. No efficiency in the damn sky. There's a weird moment where they're looking out the window at the lights of they say Denver, and it looks like I don't know if this was intentional, but it looks like an old like motherboard or computer screen. Like it's clearly not city light. It's a very strange moment.
Yeah, this was the early 2000s, the late 90s. It was a different world.
Well, so there's a really interesting, just like 20-minute presentation from one of the Toronto International Film Festivals where they had a Claire Denis retrospective. And the speaker there, whose name I forget, I apologize. I'm sure you look up Trouble Every Day, TIFF, it'll pop right. Posits that this movie is slightly a sci-fi film, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I wonder if there's any of that at play. Also,
I definitely want to get into that.
Okay, good. Also, a weird note about that Toronto International Film Festival thing is in presenting the speaker, they're like, hey, we just want to acknowledge that we're doing this on, indigenous land. It's like, hey, that's cool. And then he immediately goes, we also want to thank our sponsors, Visa. It's like,
for getting us that land. Thanks, Visa.
It's like, wait a second, hold on. Either say one or the other. Don't say them both.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's set up the rest of the film and then we'll get into that. Because basically, it's sort of parallel storylines that you're curious if they're going to intersect ever. The couple you've seen them already when he's picking her up from the field, but it's this doctor whose name escapes me right now, Dr. Leo, and then his wife, who's played by Beatrice Dahl. The French are crazy with names, I gotta say. I'm sorry about this. Not a native French speaker.
Like Leo.
Well, there's an accent over it, so I'm like, is it Leo, Corey?
That's how I pronounce Leo Vader's name. I'm like, Leo
Veda. And they have, let's call it a strange relationship where he's like, okay, good morning, my beautiful wife. It's time for me to go to work in the doctor lab where I spend every day. I'm going to have a lovely breakfast, kiss you goodbye, and then, of course, board up the entire house and keep you locked in here.
Yeah. Again, as the speaker, the TIFF pointed out, some fairy tale.
Indeed you do.
Crazy woman in the attic, those type of stuff, which I thought was
definitely rooted in a sort of archetype, a trope. It's unclear at first why this is happening, why she's kind of okay with it. There are some teenagers who live in the neighborhood, it sort of seems like, who are very curious about this as well, and are sort of hatching a plan to like break in or investigate or try and talk to her at some point.
That's actually one of my favorite plot points in the film, and not just because of the payoff of it. It's just like, granted, they look a little too old to be like stalking a place like this, but it kind of reminds me of the kids in It, and like Pennywise's house, where they're always like, what is in there? What's going on in there? Like, I like that kind of like childhood curiosity in this film. I think they could have aged them down, but then again, maybe you're seeing with a
they're like
13-year-old.
20 probably.
Yeah. Too old to, whatever.
And then the movie basically, turns into just sort of miniature little slice of life jaunt for a while. This newlywed couple is sort of going around Paris. Then you learn that Shane maybe had an ulterior motive.
He's a
coming
doctor,
to Paris.
no less.
He's a doctor. He worked with Leo at some point, he says. Or read a really good paper. It's kind of, he's playing both sides, being a little sneaky, but he's like, I really got to meet this guy. He has an idea or a project that he was working on that's really influential to me that I've got to learn more about. And it's never really made like explicitly clear what that could be. You just get glimpses of it, flashes of it in like a report and a thing on the TV, but he basically has kind of posited that he found some sort of miracle cure for, I forget really how it's phrased in the movie, but it's like diseases of the mind, or like neuro, for that, things in the brain, like can cure anything that's wrong with the human brain, essentially.
I couldn't tell if like the experiments he was doing accidentally caused cannibal urges or not, but that essentially is the ailment now, like afflicting Cleo's wife. And also Gallo's character maybe hasn't acted on it. It isn't explicitly clear, but has now come to Paris searching out Leo to be like, yo, help, I need a cure to this. Because I think what it is he's scared of killing his wife and eating her. And like, we'll later see he will deny her sex on their honeymoon. And it's like, he doesn't want to kill this.
This is where the sci-fi bit sort of like, is it a virus? Is it a mutation? Is it a vampire creature sort of thing? Like, what's like this, the answer to this going on? Is it a panacea, I believe is the word, where it's just like, you're making this up?
All the continents when they were together?
No, that's Pangea.
Funny.
This movie could be read as like, yes, there is this new sort of cannibal sex disease that is highly infectious and gets in you and then just want to fucking eat people. Or you could read this film and just be like, this is a sort of extreme tale about desire and sexual proclivity gone about as bad as it could ever go. And I like that the film sort of doesn't explicitly land in either of those lanes. I think it obviously leans sort of towards there is some scientific explanation to this, but it's all very ambiguous.
Yeah, I mean, I think the desire, a good reason is like, obviously Brody Dahl's character, she has kind of an insatiable desire for this sex and violence, human flesh, and she is like punished day in and day out. Like, granted, she's her basically daily escapes, but like, she's locked up. She is like robbed her livelihood, of autonomy. She is, her husband controls her because of like to act on, I guess, what you would call just like instincts that they're very warped by science, I guess, of this. And as we'll later see, like Vincent Gallo, like we'll see more explicitly, the movie hints at it quite a bit. We'll see Vincent Gallo has the exact same urges, though by the end of the film, even though they, commit the same crime, he gets on a plane and goes home, and it's kind of insinuated lives happily ever after.
It's kind of like, got that one out of my system. That's great.
Yeah, and Brody Dahl's character dies, and it's a little unclear if it was a intentional suicide or if she was like killing herself or like, it's a little unclear if she's trying to kill herself. Eventually, Vincent Gallo kills her. But like,
I was gonna say,
might have been trying to kill herself before that. Nevertheless, like she's not living her own life where Vincent Gallo able to just be like, all right, I'm going home. See y'all. Did what I got to do.
I'm out of here.
I ate that lady. See you. Bye.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a great segue into just like let's talk about it. Let's get into it. The teenagers, finally figure out the right floorboard to knock loose or something like that on the window, and then they start talking with her, or communicating with her, however you want to phrase that. And it's just like they get in there, there's two of them. One of them is like he's down bad. There's no other way to put it. He astronomically needs to smash. She's happy to oblige.
And I'll posit he doesn't smash, rather he gets
smashed. Yeah. Like, okay. So, and again, this is something that just feels so doesn't happen these days anymore, if it ever did, let's say. But it's like, this is such a sort of horny French teen in the 90s move that's like, oh, there's this house down the neighborhood where the housewife gets locked up every day. We're going to go free her, and then she's going to, reward for being such heroic little young teen boys. I sort of see where they're coming from in their head, at least a very bit. But it doesn't go well.
I want to unpack the visual and just like the moment. It is such a raw display of a woman gone feral. Like, it begins like a normal sex scene, like mildly erotic, if you compare the fact she is in the dusty, grossest house of all time.
It's just absolutely filthy, and this is like a teenager who crawled through the window 2 minutes ago. And you know what her intentions are, so I don't hold this against her at all. I'm like, this kid, this is why I say he's down bad, maybe worse than anyone's ever been. What are you doing? What in what world do you think this is a good idea?
Yeah. Well, so like they just start having sex, and it's like a normal sex scene. You're like, oh, all right. And it's like, I don't know whose direction this was, if Denis' idea or Brody Dahl's idea, where it was coming from, but there's a slow escalation of how hard she bites. It doesn't turn on a dime like you might think, or like in a less masterfully made movie. Like, it is a slow build up to the actual point of violence that makes you question it. Even like the male character is constantly like, hey, maybe a little too hard.
Yeah, like let's chill out.
Yeah. And like it slowly goes up into it, and then when it hits that crescendo, like, it might be one of the greatest on-scene screams of all time. Like, the scream they got
out of...
It's
like unhearable, yeah.
The scream they got out of this man is one of the worst things I have ever heard in my life. Like, instantly filled my body with anxiety.
Yeah, does it start with his lip that she bites off?
Yeah, like,
right? And then...
gets to the neck. And
yeah, because she's kind of like, moving up his body with these, like, little pecks that turn into like maybe a little bit of teeth, and then he sort of realizes like, okay, that's gonna leave a mark or something, don't want to be involved with all of that. And then by the time she gets to his face, she just like pulling off his lip, and then just starts ripping it to his neck, and it becomes one of those sequences where you're like, I don't know if there's that much blood in the human body, but that's a lot of blood.
It's extreme. And there's a chilling shot the kid downstairs hearing the screams, and you can see he's doing the mental math of whether
it's like a very it's so twisted, kind of how funny it is at first, where he's like sitting there reading a book or something.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got this look on his face like, oh, this fucking guy.
Yeah.
And then
you
you like hear the screams escalating, and he kind of like looks up and it's like, what's going on here?
You can tell he's doing the mental calculations of whether or not this friendship is worth. And he doesn't. I don't know. Like, we see a shot later where it feels like 17 blood on this wall.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if that's an implication that both died. That would make sense, honestly, but it's never clear what really happens to the second kid. Nevertheless, the boy that was down bad, down worse than any man has ever been at this.
He's about as down bad as you can be. He's dead. He's very dead.
To circle back to what you're saying, I think horror is a good genre for this film, even though it's not scary throughout. I will say this scene is one of the more horrific things I've seen in a film. It's brutal. It's awful. It's like one of those fucking things where it's like you want to throw up while you're watching it. Also, it's like you don't peel your eyes from it the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most memorable scenes a movie could have.
Yeah.
You know? It's like a kind of a game changer. Definitely lives on the strength of that twist, that turn, and just the like sheer nastiness of this one part. But it's not her husband who wins this time. It is Vincent Gallo's character, and he's taken aback certainly by what he sees, but in a similar way maybe to the husband, he kind of understands it. I don't know, again, with like the medical past and the sort of situation is, but you know, what we come to understand is like, yeah, she sometimes gets out, acts on these desires, kills people, does whatever. The doctor sort of has this relationship with her where he's like, okay, we're going to take you home, clean you up, lock you up. It's like maybe not your fault or something kind of out of your control. That's a bit what's unclear.
And well, he also has like a makeshift lab in his house. So my reading is he's also experimenting. So it behooves him to keep her around.
Yeah. And then like you were describing, yeah, Vincent Gallo ends up like burning the sort of like starting a fire. That's how she dies. The editing there maybe isn't the most clear. Maybe it's meant to be kind of ambiguous, like you're saying. But
yeah,
basically,
I mean,
he walks in because he's looking for the husband.
Yeah.
Walks in, sees what she's done, and then he leaves with the place burning down.
Yeah,
basically.
and she had mentioned earlier in the film, like, I want to die. I think it might be one of her only lines in the entire film.
I was going to say, yeah.
She says...
When you mentioned that, I was like, does she talk in this movie?
I think she has one line there. She says something and says, like, I want to die. And then when Vincent Gallo's character comes in there, you can hear her saying in English, I'm so sick. And I think those are her only lines. And I will say, that's not to downplay her performance at all, because I think she's, like, by leaps and bounds, the best. It's just she's doing so much with silence that
one of the greatest lookers ever had.
Yeah,
she can just look somewhere on screen and you're like, I know everything that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Vincent Gallo, though, here's the thing: this character, he's not. The movie goes to length. I think it's the only way it can justify letting him get off scot-free at the end, to basically let you know he is a bad guy. He gropes two women in public. At one point,
really weird.
He kind of like punches his wife at one point when denies her sex. She's like kind of tries to. He denies her sex, goes into the bathroom, masturbates instead. Which, like, in and of itself, that act is him trying to spare her life because he's kill her.
That comes pretty close to the end of the movie, right? Because from here, basically, like he's essentially like on a downward spiral from this moment, basically, where he's been looking for a cure or an understanding maybe of what this kind of condition is, and he's not making any leads, basically. There's a really cool scene that I think occurs before the murder, but one that I really like and I think is worth bringing up, where he goes to the lab, and we sort of talked about it a little bit, where he's like pretty clearly bullshitting where the doctor is at, and that's how he gets the address. That's a pretty funny scene. He like weasels this older lady out of giving up the information. But the lab scene is so cool because there's they're experimenting on human brain, and there are like these little slivers that are sitting in tree dishes. And throughout this whole scene, like, it's very, they're all in white lab coats, and it's this very clinical, sparse scene. But like throughout it, they keep cutting back to just like, these very menial, banal like acts of just slicing apart a human brain.
Yeah.
And again, that's part of maybe the message of the film, but these like desanitized sort of deconstructions of the human body and how common become. And it's just very interesting to consider that bit of these very like minute and sort of meaningless dissections compared to the other things that happen in this movie.
And the other doctors who at one point had worked with, like, they kind of think he's a quack based on with his research at the human brain.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's pretty explicitly said, like, he was kind of like not disowned by the medical community, and that's why just kind of like
disqualified.
Yeah, and now we see him working as kind of like a neighborhood doctor, kind of far out.
Yeah, there is some dialogue earlier in the film where it's like, oh, he was so prestigious, and now he's just doing this. What's up with that kind of thing? It's all interesting. It's all thought-provoking, and there are no real answers, which is why I think this film got such a negative reaction upon its initial release. Like, we talked about this up top, too, but it's one that has sort of been reclaimed over the years. Like, it played at Cannes, like I mentioned, kind of right after Beau Travail, and so Claire Denis was the hot new talent on the block, and this one was like, okay, weird one. Glad you got that out of your system. Let's make some real movies, please.
So after it's a little unclear how Beatrice doll. I keep wanting to call her Bodhi doll, which is
you have been for most of the episode.
Is that true?
That is true.
That's fun.
I was like, I thought this was some pet nickname. I was going to ask you about
That's
it.
That's funny.
No.
No, that's the singer of the Distillers. It's a little unclear how her death affects Vincent Gallo, other than he buys a puppy and gropes a second woman in public. But there is a very wild scene that we've talked about a little. After this death, you see him and his wife start to initiate sex, and denies her. And goes into the bathroom immediately and viciously
He's banging one out.
masturbates.
And you get the sense from her reaction that, like, this has happened before.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
she's kind of just, like, banging on the door.
Yeah.
Being like, come on, dude, we're married. We're on our honeymoon. What is going on here?
He comes out and, like, she tries to stop him, like, yo, fucking talk to me. Like, I think he, like, straight up just punches him.
It's like a very harsh push.
Yeah. So it's like the movie is letting you know this is a bad dude at the end of the day. Like, it's a little unclear at the beginning if he's just kind of a sick guy, but like by the end, before you see his final act, which is obviously it's giving you hits that, like, this is a bad motherfucker. He's out in the world, and we're ultimately to this crescendo moment where the roles have been reversed, and what Beatrice did earlier, he now does. This woman who's shown up a couple times in the film, she's the housekeeper, not the housekeeper, the maid, I guess, at a hotel. But there are these subtle hints that she knows Vincent Gallo's character. She is always so nervous around him. Though at one point, just in their bed, and smokes their cigarette. I didn't fully in, but
you're allowed to do that.
It does make me think, because we see the way he acts out in public, that she had just been a victim of. Whether it's just like a train groping or like
that's kind of the sense I got.
Yeah.
Is because he hangs around that hotel a bit. Like there are a couple scenes there where they interact even.
Yeah.
But again, rewatching this movie, the way that it's shot. And kind of like, the handheld photography and the POV really lets you in on the fact that the Vincent Gallo character is not meant to be taken as a nice guy, a good guy, a particularly well put together guy.
Yeah.
It's just sort of all lending to this atmosphere of like, this sort of unhinged descent into whatever mess is coming over him. And then
why does he adopt a fucking dog?
That's the one part that just like doesn't make much sense to me. He's like, you can take it as like looking for an attachment that is not, going to turn into these other ones, or like trying to maybe introduce some like domestic bliss into their life.
Maybe like trying to smooth over the like lack of physical relationship with his wife. Like, here's a dog. I don't know. People
will jump right to being like, let's have a kid. He's like, let's adopt this cute dog for the record.
It's unclear.
But the climax of this film, or sort of the final act, is Vincent Gallo goes down into the bowels of this hotel where the maid is essentially getting off work, her shift or whatever. It's like a locker room. She's changing, and he basically just barges in. And it's a little unclear kind of how this starts. Like, he's clearly propositioning her, and she is not outwardly being like, no, go away, creep. She's entertaining him in like just the slightest bit at first. And I think that's essentially what flips the switch into basically a repeat of the Beatrice Dahl teenage murder sequence, where it starts to look sort of like a consensual sexual encounter that then pretty explicitly turns into an assault, and then he starts taking bites.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk about where he starts eating from, but that should be enough to tell the list. And once again, the screams are horrific.
Not great.
But like the interesting thing to draw from this scene, and I think there are plenty of ways to like any movie that is opaque. Is that the right word? Opaque?
Opaque.
Yeah, is like you kind of are just going to take the obvious, explicit visuals we've been seeing here are like, Beatrice does the same shit, but she's been locked away. She has robbed of her life. Yeah, I've already Vincent after this act, he takes a shower, he hugs his wife, I'm ready to go home. And I don't think the message of the movie is if men can get away with rape, we'll be able to get away with it too. That's not what I'm saying.
It's definitely not the message of the film.
That's not what I'm getting at it. But I do think there's an obvious kind of message here, or leaning towards, look at the scales of justice here are not even.
Yeah.
He is obviously like, no one barges in, no one is even like waves their finger at this man, where like Beatrice is implied for the past several years has completely lost everything ever had to this disease.
And then, I mean, the imagery of it is pretty starking as well too. She ends up, in the most sort of biblical death imaginable, burned at the stake, essentially, completely cleansed from the planet for acting out on these drives, and he gets to wash it off, be like, got that out of my system, let's take our puppy and go back to America.
So I definitely don't think this movie is saying like Beatrice Dahl's character should have like gotten away with it. But I think what it's doing is giving an extreme example of like, look what the other side is getting away with.
Yes.
Why are these scales shifted towards one?
And that's why the lack of answers or sort of explanation, the more fantastical elements can be so satisfying, is because it's pretty clearly an examination of the relationship between sex, violence, power, gender dynamics, that whole structure, which, to bring this conversation full circle, I think pretty neatly ties it into the new French Extremity wave movement, however you want to call it. These were all films that were using their extreme content to sort of point something out, make an observation, reflect an aspect of society. And, despite this being a movie that could be read as an outbreak of a cannibalistic mind virus, is basically boils down to, a pretty intense examination of the way that men and women have their sexual desires or outbursts of hedonistic violence kind of examined and held up and looked at, and the pretty clear imbalance there, and how society responds to those things.
Here's the thing, AJ.
Yeah,
fucking awesome.
Awesome movie. Like truly one where I was doing a deep dive on Claire Denis a couple of years ago, probably right around when High Life was coming out. And like I mentioned, Beau Travail and Trouble Every Day are like two of my all-time favorite movies. Just crazy good.
I think obviously Raw owes a lot to this film. Raw definitely opens in a similar-ish way to Trouble Every Day, at least a car and a road and
Comic Sans,
an act of violence and cannibalism. Comic Sans. Not as good of a good movie. I thought it got a bad rap. Bones and All definitely owes a lot to.
I was watching this last night and I was like, maybe I gotta just fucking finally Bones and All. It's really just my own stubbornness at this point.
I think obviously it got dunked on by idiots that we should outlaw from letting watch movies. People who you know the one. But
dude, if those people watched this movie, I think they would. I think if you have that kind of brain where you're like, well, what's being depicted on screen is always being endorsed, no matter what, by not only the filmmaker but by everybody involved in it, and anyone who watches it is actively part. I think if you watch this movie, your brain might just implode upon itself.
Yeah. But I also think it got just dunked on for I don't know, being kind of like a twee movie, like Tumblr.
Yeah, I know I'm gonna like it. Whenever I decide to watch it, I know I'm gonna like it.
I think it's a good movie, and I think it obviously is pulling direct inspiration from this film. Obviously goes in different places, explores love and cannibalism, but definitely is in some kind of conversation with those people who think on-screen acts are endorsements from the director. Do they watch The Avengers and think the Russo brothers endorse World War,
dropping a nuke on Manhattan?
Yeah,
that's what happens to them. That was a Joss Whedon joint, so although maybe he's got some problems of his own. Let me tell you a movie that I've been thinking about a lot.
Okay.
And it's not only just because I watched it immediately after I watched this movie tonight.
Okay.
The GOAT, the greatest movie, Possession.
Yes.
Watching those two back to back, like weird kind of thematic overlap that I think when my brain was kind of tuned into Trouble Every Day mode, I quite literally fired this bad boy up on Shudder. I was like, I got a Possession screening in an hour and a half. Let me blast through Trouble Every Day. Let me hop in the car, drive over to the cinema for Possession. So, you know, bad vibes last night, but two great movies. And I think, you know, do a lot with gender politics, sex, violence, what we can get away with, all those sorts of things, marriage, like truly, you know, an all-time double feature in the Moser household last night.
I obviously recommend give The Boring, Pedestrian, and like watch Raw, just fucking so good.
And then listen to us talk about it in a few weeks.
To us talk about it. But also, recommendation, maybe a little bit of a stretch, but I'm going to say Shinya Moto, who we covered Zero. His film, A Snake of June. About a very sexually suppressed woman. Repressed? Suppressed?
What did you say?
I said suppressed.
My brain's shutting down. Sexually
suppressed.
repressed?
It's sexually suppressed, not repressed. It doesn't.
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, listeners, figure it out at home. About a sexually frustrated woman who is trying her best to figure it out, find a place for her to free sexually, and it goes to some very dark places. But man, it's good. Here's the thing. Shinya Tsukamoto's, all his films are about the body. But I think the ones where he strays further away from explicit body horror are his Bullet Ballet, Snake of June, Tokyo Fist. Phenomenal films. And Snake of June, I've not talked about. Quite the cool double feature. So
you know, similarly, to wrap up, Claire Denis is a filmmaker who very heavy-handed isn't the right word I use, but like her films are never just the story that's on screen.
Right.
There are always similar themes of power, masculinity, whatever you want. That is a consistent through line throughout her filmography. She never really gets this gross ever again. High Life gets pretty gross as well, and then there are some moments of violence in some of her later films, but this is a high watermark for absolute freak shit, and I'm so glad this movie exists, and I'm so glad we finally got the chance to talk about it, and hopefully people tune into this one, because it's good.
Next week, the month of Beatrice Doll continues, baby.
That's right.
We are watching the first Blake pick. Which
I'm stoked.
I know, AJ, you've already watched. We're watching Inside, not the Bo Burnham, not the American one.
remake, yeah.
The very short French film, Inside, starring Beatrice Doll. Here's the thing, AJ. I have not rewatched it yet. I've only seen this movie one time in 2021, I believe. And I'm actually saving it for Sunday when I will be back in Kentucky at my parents' house.
There you go.
My parents live a house. It's not secluded, but it's not as metropolitan as where I live. It gets very dark at night. I'm gonna watch it in their basement in the pitch black.
That's what you told me. You said watch this movie. There can be no lights on in your house, and I listened to you, and I gotta tell you, shook me to my little core.
Crucially, AJ, and we'll talk about this on the episode. So there's a tease for listeners. They have two big doors with picture windows that lead directly to the black of night. So that's where I'm gonna be watching it. I'm gonna be watching the movie in that room. One
of the most indelible images in a horror movie.
That's right.
In Inside,
and then
which we'll be talking about next week.
And then the week after, Beatrice Doll again. It's crazy.
Is that true?
Lux Eterna, yeah. With not French to my knowledge. She is Charlotte Gainsbourg.
Maybe Gainsbourg.
I'm gonna look it up before we close out. Don't say bye yet, just so we know.
Okay, I got to vamp. I got to fucking cook.
She's from London. She's from London.
Okay.
British.
Thanks everybody so much for listening. Make sure you're following us on www.twitter.com. You're following the podcast on Spotify, on Apple, on Google, on YouTube. You don't have to follow it on all of those places, but maybe pick one. And just hit the old little follow button so you get notified when our new episodes come out on Fridays. And stay tuned for all of the great French films we got coming your way later this month. As they say in Paris, au revoir. That's it. Oui, oui.
Mrs. Brown. Welcome to Paris, Mrs. Brown. I hope you'll enjoy your stay.
No, Dr. Semino doesn't work here anymore. close my eyes.
I really need to find him.
You see trouble every day.
Just up and left.
His wife is sick.
Inside.
Corey's sick?
He is very sick.
You can blow such a slightest breeze, and I know
You were in love with her? It's not the right word for it.
and this trip is this trip is
Do you believe in loyalty, Mr. Brown? What about betrayal?